Well, welcome to the FanDuel Punch-Out. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Josh Shepardson at BChad50. And it's going to be a really interesting night tonight. A lot of pitchers that you feel pretty good about. A couple you feel great about, I guess. And the one you really, really want to play, the guy who's been the best pitcher, arguably, I say the best pitcher in baseball over the past month or so, Chris Sale, gets also the toughest matchup on the board. The number one ranked offense in the league, especially against left-handed pitching. I saw it said they score .75 more runs per game than the second-ranked offense against lefties. So it's not even close that they're the best offense, but it's not even particularly close that he's the hottest pitcher in baseball right now. So, I mean, 9 of his last 10 games, at least 10 Ks, but $11,500. He's usually a lock for me in cash games. I'm going to have a ton of exposure to GPPs, but I think at that price, it's not to say he's a fade by any means, but I just don't think I'm going to be paying for that in cash games. I think the guy that I'm going with, and a guy that I know you like as well, Carlos Carrasco, comes in $1,800 cheaper at $9,700. Gets a Houston team that strikes out a ton. Carrasco coming off that near no-hitter against Tampa Bay. He's gone 8+ innings each of his last 2 starts. I mean, I think he's just got to be your chalk play in cash tonight.
Yeah, the biggest concern for me with Sale, and I'm with you, I like him in GPPs. I think that there's definitely upside there. I mean, he struck out over 41% of the batters he's faced in the last 30 days. So Sale's been locked in, but the biggest concern for me is the fact that the Blue Jays just don't strike out. 16.8% strikeout rate against left-handed pitchers this year, 10% walk rate, 190 ISO, 377 WOBA, 141 WRC plus. That is a potent offense. There's definitely reason for pause when considering using Sale. I think we're going to see that double-digit strikeout streak go ahead and come to a close tonight. I'm not one to usually bet against Sale missing bats, but just a very tough lineup to do that against. So definitely worth the upside in GPPs because the price is going to scare people away. The Blue Jays are going to scare people away. The fact he's not a monstrous betting favorite. The fact that he's backed by a garbage offense against lefties and they're facing Burley. These are all things that are going to scare people away and drive the ownership down, making Sale that it's weird to think that he's going to be a low-owned GPP option, but I don't think his ownership is going to be crazy in GPPs. I still think he's going to be overused in cash games, but I'm not going to be one of those gamers that uses him. I'm with you. I really like Carrasco. He's actually my second favorite cash games play tonight. My first is AJ Burnett. He's at home, so he's in a pitcher-friendly ballpark, but I was talking to you before the show, and I mean, outside of being more hittable, his numbers line up very favorably with Dallas Keuchel, another pitcher on the slate tonight. I think Keuchel's going to be a very popular pick. I think Carrasco's going to be very popular. The problem with Keuchel is the Indians have actually been surprisingly good against left-handed pitching this year. They rank as one of the better offenses in baseball against lefties, despite having so many lefties in their lineup. They rank 6th. They're tied for 5th in WRC plus at 104. And most importantly, they work walks 10% of the time, and they don't strike out much, 17.3% strikeout rate. So for me, if I'm using Keuchel, it's going to be in GPPs to get a different pitcher out there. It's not going to be in cash games because I do worry about the Indians running his pitch count up a little bit because while Keuchel's been very good, his walk rate's solid. Occasionally he is prone to giving up a handful of walks, and the Indians are going to work him. They're also going to put a lot of balls in play. So some of these foul balls turn into long at-bats, and all of a sudden Keuchel's pitch count's going to be worked up a little bit, and there's just not a lot of strikeout upside there. Plus, it's going to be very difficult to get the win against Carlos Carrasco. So not a huge Keuchel fan tonight, but I do like Burnett, who basically rides the same formula to success. Strikes out just enough batters, just around league average, but he has been throwing strikes and he keeps the ball on the ground at a really high rate, about 55% of the time. And the Padres' offense has just been garbage against right-handed pitching this year. So I like him. And then I also like Heston, but I'm more of a GPP play with him. The nice thing with Heston is at last check he was the biggest betting favorite on the slate, and we know that he tied this Mets lineup up once, already throwing a no-hitter against them this year with 11 punch-outs. So did mow through them once. I do like him to get the W tonight. He is at home. Guys, there are some left-handed batters in the lineup that are a little bit concerning, but Not so much at AT&T Park, where the ballpark factors are very favorable for pitching. And to correct my statement, Heston's line has dropped. He is not the biggest betting favorite tonight. Eric Surkamp of the Dodgers is, which makes sense. They hadn't posted the line yet because the Dodgers hadn't officially announced Surkamp yet. And he actually checks in behind Hisashi Iwakuma as well. But at a minus 133 favorite, I do like Heston in a low total game. But again, I'm not using him in cash games. I'm more or less looking at him as a different GPP pick because that salary relief is pretty nice as well.
Yeah, and one guy I'm going to throw out there for GPPs, John Lester. Mentioned how
Yep.
bad the Cardinals have been against left-handed pitching. So Lester hasn't quite been himself. Hasn't been the $120 million man yet this season. But at times though, he's looked really good. And I mean, it doesn't take much to beat this St. Louis team with left-handed arm right now. So gotta like him as well. Outside of that, really nobody cheap that I'm a fan of at all. Wei-Yin Chen's a guy I've been playing quite a bit, but Minnesota, especially at home, hits lefties pretty hard. So I mean, if you want a contrarian play, I don't think he's a bad play, but when we get to second base, you'll realize why I'm not going to be playing him very much. So, yeah, he's my other
Foreshadowing.
option. Yeah, absolutely. But moving to catcher, though, top option is Buster Posey. He's expensive, but like we mentioned, there's so many low totals. There's not a lot of guys you really need to pay up for. There's a lot of guys priced cheap. No 9-run total, no Coors game, no Chase Field, nothing like that. So you're going to pay up for maybe a couple bats tonight. Buster Posey is going to be one of the guys I pay for. We know he crushes left-handed pitching. Gets John Neese, who's been an okay lefty, but I mean Buster Posey recently has looked like MVP Buster Posey at the plate, and I can easily fit him in the lineup that I feel good about tonight. So I got a lot of Buster Posey.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the benefits for those that aren't using Chris Sale tonight. That excess money can be poured into catcher, into positions where you normally either punt or look for some value. Instead, you can pay up for a Buster Posey, and you get him in a matchup against a lefty whose production's slipping big time against right-handed batters. Beyond Posey, I like Victor Martinez a bit against Hisashi Iwakuma. Good lineup spot, and Iwakuma, we know that when he struggles, it's with the long ball. It's the splitter hanging up there and just getting punished. I like behind him Yasmani Grandal at 3,200. He's going to be he's going to be a left-handed bat as a switch hitter, facing Sean O'Sullivan, who basically makes left-handed batters look like Hall of Fame caliber hitters. And I say that like literally, not figuratively. Since 2012, he's allowed a triple slash line of 357, 434, 648 to left-handed batters. That is Bryce Harper territory, and that's to all left-handed batters since 2012. So we know that there's some light hitters sprinkled in there that are muscling up against O'Sullivan. So get your good hitters in against him. And then a guy that I know you liked and we talked about before the show, $2,900 Matt Wieters got the day off yesterday. Gets Phil Hughes. He's been in a bit of a skid lately, but I still really like the bat. Was really coming around against righties last year before undergoing Tommy John surgery. Came off the disabled list and started to hit them hard a little bit this year. And then the last name that I'll throw out there, this is a contrarian pick, GPP only for me, but he's a min salary option, and that's Jan Gomes against left-hander Dallas Keuchel. He does hammer left-handed pitching, typically hits around fifth against lefties, so he was out of the lineup yesterday, should be back in there today, assuming it was just a maintenance day, it looks like. So he should be fresh, and he should be ready to go against a left-handed pitcher. And because I do expect Keuchel to be relatively popular, you should get a low ownership rate with min salary Jan Gomes.
Yeah, very. And just to further your point on Sean O'Sullivan, this season, 25 innings pitched against left-handed batters. He's allowed 10 home runs, 11 walks, and 11 strikeouts. Just to put that in perspective, it's you know what you're getting from him. You're getting a walk, or you're getting a home run, or you're just getting on base because he is just god awful. Like Josh said, get yourself lots of lefty exposure to this guy because he's historically bad against lefties. First base options, no Miguel Cabrera, not for any time any soon right now because he is on the DL. Like they said, 6 weeks, so not that you can't see the big DL next to his name, but you're obviously not paying up for him. Adam Lynn, now your most expensive healthy option, $4,200 against Matthew Whistler. He's a fine play. He's been hitting well, especially against righties, as you know. But $4,200, kind of a pricey tag. A guy that I really like tonight is Anthony Rizzo against John Lackey. John Lackey's a good pitcher, but he's not a great pitcher. And Anthony Rizzo at home, as we know, can crush anyone. And he hasn't been hitting particularly well recently, which is why his price is down. But $3,700 for one of the better overall hitters in baseball. I really like that price tag for him. And then I know another guy you liked right there, Jose Abreu, is a good tournament option against the lefty Mark Burley.
Yeah, I mean, Burley not a big bat misser, so if I can get a guy like Abreu who's got some power in his bat against a pitcher that really isn't going to strike him out, I like that at the sell. He has been heating up. Extra base hits, multiple hits. I mean, he's starting to string together a nice little run here over the last week or two. Um, I also like Joey Votto at $3,200. Gets Doug Fister, another pitcher that doesn't miss many bats. Not that Votto's a big strikeout liability anyway, but when you can get him against a guy who pitches to contact, we know Votto's contact is loud. Line drives, hard contact, doesn't give up many outs, doesn't hit pop ups, these sort of things. So he's a great play against. He's a great play against basically any righty, but he's an especially great play against a pitch to contact pitcher like Fister. And then assuming that he's in the lineup, he refused. He declined to have X-rays yesterday. Adrian Gonzalez hit by a pitch on the hand, but it looks like he's going to be fine. If he's in the lineup, he's another left-handed batter against Sean O'Sullivan. But there's another left-handed batter that I know you like at first base, just $2,600. Not great ballpark factors, but why don't you tell the listeners about someone that you're looking at first base?
I'm going with Lucas Duda if I'm going cheap. $2,600 gets Chris Heston. We mentioned Heston has struggles with left-handed batters. 357 WOBA allowed this season. Been very good against righties, but if you're going to get some exposure to him tonight, it's going to be with the lefty. And I mean, Lucas Duda, another one of those guys, hasn't hit particularly well, has a couple doubles in his last 3 games, but we know he's got power, and he's a much better hitter than this. It's like you said, not a good environment for him in San Francisco, but at his price tag, he rips you a double, gets you an RBI, and he's easily paying that off, and you can save that money for elsewhere.
Yep.
Second base, this is what we were talking about earlier with Wei-Yin Chen. Brian Dozier against the lefty. In case you aren't aware, that's the guy you want against the lefty at second base. Well, Altuve as well, but he's not facing a lefty tonight. But Brian Dozier's $3,500 tonight against the lefty Wei-Yin Chen at home. We know what this guy does in this type of situation. He is an absolute lock for me in cash games tonight. I'll probably have a ton of them in tournaments as well. I imagine he's going to be really heavily owned at that price tag, but rightfully so. And with that being said, he's really the only cash game guy I'm going to be playing. But there are some other options, of course, that you can look at. So why don't you give me – I know there's one guy a little bit cheaper than Dozier you really like. So who you got there?
Neil Walker at 3,200 looks pretty good against James Shields. Shields a little bit more susceptible against left-handed batters. Walker significantly better as a switch hitter facing right-handed pitching. Gets a good lineup spot for the Pirates typically, whether it's hitting second, hitting cleanup. He's hit both places this year. Pittsburgh, not the greatest ballpark in the world for hitting, but we know that when Shields has had problems this year, it's been because he's gotten a little wild in the zone, been fat, and served up the long ball. And Walker does have some power in his bat. I mean, he's not the first hitter you think of when you think of power hitters. He's not the first power hitter you think of in the Pirates lineup, but he does have above average power, and he is very good against right-handed pitching. So I do like him a bit. I think that because he's priced so close to Dozier, does make for an interesting GPP pivot because Dozier should be fairly high owned. Again, not to discourage you from using Dozier, I'm going to be using a ton of shares of him tonight. But if you're looking someplace else, he looks pretty interesting. Howie Kendrick is a righty, so you're not getting that lefty exposure to Sean O'Sullivan. But let's put it this way. The Dodgers are getting a big number, and righties, lefties, everybody that swings a bat for the Dodgers is probably going to have some hand in that. And Kendrick usually hits in a good lineup spot as well. Another one of those second basemen that hits in the top 5 in his club's order. And then one more name that I'm going to throw out there, or 2 more names that I'm going to throw out there. Both hit left-handed. One is Joe Panic, gets a lefty-lefty matchup with John Neese, but Panic's actually been better against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching in his brief big league career. And Neese, while he's been really good against lefties since 2012, his numbers are slipping a little bit, and he has been semi-hittable against left-handed batters this year. And then Jace Peterson against Kyle Loesch, 2,800 if you're looking for salary relief. Going to be a lefty, does a good job of working walks, making a lot of contact, and he leads off for the Braves at Miller Park. I do think they can put some runs up on Loesch, so grabbing their leadoff hitter, maybe even hooking him with the toolsy outfielder hitting directly behind him, who I will touch on a little bit later in the podcast. Maybe hooking the 2 of those guys isn't a bad play at all.
Yeah, and I'll throw out Cesar Hernandez also. I mean, he's been hitting the ball extremely well. He's got 6 multi-hit games in his last 9. He also has 3 multi-stolen base games in his last 9. So if you want a guy that's just been really consistent, especially with Chase Utley out, then Cesar Hernandez is a nice tournament swerve there. I mean, he's not a bad cash game play either, honestly, the way he's been hitting and stealing bases. Third base options here. Normally Josh Donaldson against a lefty is the guy you want, but that lefty happens to be Chris Sale tonight, so not a guy I'm a big fan of. Chris Bryant's probably going to be a popular play. 2 games ago, had that monster 2 home run game, 6 RBIs. He's been hitting the ball really well recently. Stolen base in 2 of his last 3 as well, so $4,000 if you're paying up. He's it's probably either him or Manny Machado, I'd say, if you're paying up. Obviously, Machado, great matchup against fly ball pitcher and Phil Hughes as well.
Yep, I do. Machado is my favorite play if you have the cash, but I know it's going to be tough to squeeze him in there if you're going to be using Posey and Dozier as well at a couple other positions that usually you don't spend a ton at. So I'm actually looking long and hard at Maikel Franco against who we presume to be Eric Surkamp tonight. The Dodgers called him up. Again, as of now, they still haven't officially announced him as the starter, but it's going to be Eric Surkamp tonight. So you get Franco against a bad lefty that just really is not an overpowering pitcher, and Franco's been excellent. I also like Trevor Plouffe at $2,900, and teammate Miguel Sano makes for an interesting punt at just $2,200. Not going out of my way to pick on Wei-Yin Chen. As you guys know, Justin and I both like Wei-Yin Chen, both really believe that he's a good pitcher, but if you're going to go after him, you're going to go after him with right-handed batters, and so both third basemen for the Twins look pretty interesting. And I know there's another cheap bat that you like at third base that gets a righty-righty matchup at Kaufman, but he's been playing well, and he hits in a good spot in his lineup. Why don't you reveal this mystery man?
Mystery man is Evan Longoria. Normally you like to target him against lefties, and this has been a bad offense, to say the least, but not really his fault. He's having an okay season, not the kind of season we're accustomed to for Longoria, but Edison Volk has been very, very good against lefties, slightly below average against righties, and Longoria's got 2 multi-hit games in his last 3, stole a base a couple games ago, so he's just a good all-around player for $2,700 that you don't mind slotting in your cash games there. And then Juan Uribe in tournaments, gotta like him at $2,800. Not a guy that is going to get you multi-hits probably ever again in his life, but he's got power. He's got 4 home runs, I believe, in his last 6 games, so definitely looking his way in some tournaments also. As we move to shortstop, if you're not playing Carlos Carrasco, really interesting tournament play is going to be Carlos Correa. Carlos versus Carlos here. Correa's been absolutely smashing the ball, making a ton of hard contact. So, like I said, probably playing Carrasco in my cash games, so this makes him a GPP only. But there's one other guy cheaper here that you and I both really like, and we think a lot of people will be off because it is a lefty-lefty matchup. Brandon Crawford, $2,800. He crushes left-handed pitching. Something that people don't automatically know. A lot of people shy away from any lefty-lefty matchup, but this is a good matchup for Brandon Crawford despite the park factor. So at 2.8K, he's a guy that I'll probably have slotted in my cash games tonight.
Yeah, I like him as a cash games play, and he does have power, so there is some GPP appeal as well. I think he's going to be less popular than $3,100 Johnny Peralta, who is fine. I do like Peralta, good lineup spot. Gets a lefty. We know that we like Peralta better against lefties. And John Lester, for as good as he is, he can be hit a little bit by right-handed batters, so Peralta's a strong play as well, but that $300 when I've been constructing my cash games and GPP lineups has been important. So pivoting down to Brandon Crawford has resulted in some lineups that I like a little bit better. And if you're looking to go even cheaper than that, I know there's a left-handed bat in Seattle that you like quite a bit.
Yeah, Brad Miller's a great tournament option. He's got a ton of power. Usually gets a really awful lineup spot around 8th or 9th, but like we said, in tournaments, it really doesn't matter where you're going to be slotted. And Alfredo Simon's been awful against lefties this year. 365 WOBA allowed. So if you're targeting him, you're targeting him with lefties. And if it's not him, I really like for cash games, Alcides Escobar. Gets Alex Colome, contact pitcher. Nothing special there on his end at all. And Escobar just hits well at home. Should be leading off as he always is. And he's 2,300. So, I mean, you need a cheap guy at shortstop. I think that's the no-brainer play for me.
Yep, I agree.
All right, moving on to the outfield. I mean, Bryce Harper's got a tremendous matchup against Anthony DeSclafani at home, so you got to love that. $5,200, though, you got to pay a pretty price. I'm going to go and jump from him to a guy I absolutely love at minimum salary, Alex Gordon. $2,200, lefty against Alex Colome. Homered in his last game yesterday. Not a big power guy, but he's got 10 homers on the season, and he's a much better hitter than than what Ned Yost seems to think, because he's been batting sixth, and you don't like that. But I mean, this is a really good matchup for him. He's way too good of a hitter to be min salary tonight.
Yeah, that's a nice minimum salary find. Just $200 more. I'm loving Andre Ethier. I expect him to be very popular. He got a day off yesterday against lefty Steven Matz, but he'll be back in there tonight against a righty. And when that righty Sean O'Sullivan, you like to target him with left-handed bats. So I'll go ahead and look at his teammate Jack Peterson for 3,300. Expect him to be a very popular play. And because O'Sullivan is not a strikeout pitcher, I like Peterson in cash games as well. Usually with his propensity for striking out, not a huge fan of him in cash games. I like him a lot more in GPPs because you're chasing the power, you're chasing the walks, but the strikeouts leave you wanting a little bit more. But O'Sullivan striking out less than 10% of the left-handed batters that he's faced since 2012. So Peterson, not really as much of a strikeout threat as his gaudy strikeout rate would suggest, at least not tonight. And leading off most likely, so you got to love all the at-bats that he's going to get against O'Sullivan or whoever they bring in for mop-up duty after O'Sullivan's been beaten to a bloody pulp. So I like Peterson a lot tonight. And then I might as well just round out the Dodgers outfield and go with Yasiel Puig at 3,300. Hits in a good lineup spot. Puig is actually basically platoon proof. He has almost an identical WRC plus against righties and lefties in his career. So very good against both. I like Puig a lot, especially since I expect a number of Dodgers to be on base. Gonna want some of those heart of the order bats, and Puig certainly fits that profile. And two more names at that $3,300 price point. That's the sweet spot tonight. We got Puig, we got Peterson. We've also got Jay Bruce against Doug Fister, and Fister pitches to contact. So I like power hitters against pitchers that pitch to contact. Bruce fits that bill. And then not a power hitter, but another toolsy outfielder, Cameron Maben. I teased him earlier. I like the pairing of him and Peterson a bit. He's at Miller Park tonight, so he's got great park factors for home runs and runs scored. Maben not a big power hitter, but he has reached the seats 7 times this year, and he has a lot of speed, 15 stolen bases on the season. So nice table setter, really cut down his strikeout rate, walking more this year, really having a full-blown breakout this year.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to overlook Gerardo Parra as well tonight. We got to throw him in there. His price is up at $3,100. The guy's been incredible. I believe 7 multi-hit games in his last 10. Chris Davis could be back today, but can't imagine he's held out with as hot as he's been. And then I'll throw out one more really good tournament option for you here. I like JD Martinez against Sasashi Iwakuma. Iwakuma's biggest weakness throughout his entire career has been the long ball, and that's about all that JD Martinez does, is hit balls really hard and really far. I mean, he only has 3 of his last 10 games where he did not hit a homer, which means he's hit a home run in 7 of his last 10 games. So as far as tournament options go, I absolutely love JD Martinez tonight.
And I'll bring up one more name. Tournaments and GPPs and cash games, fine play. $2,900 Adam Jones.
Yep.
We know that Phil Hughes has a reverse platoon split over the last handful of seasons, allowing a 350 WOBA to right-handed batters since 2012. So go ahead and get yourself some exposure to him with a very good hitter in Adam Jones, coming off of a multi-hit effort on Saturday. And he hasn't exactly been lighting up the box score lately, but we know that Adam Jones has above-average power. And he hits in a good lineup spot for a talented offense in the Orioles. So I do like Adam Jones. $2,900 feels like a bit of a steal for a price for him.
Yeah, great price tag for him. And that's going to wrap things up. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out Colossus, our optimizer. A lot of great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.